Welcome on into the Rundown, a snow day edition of the Rundown. If you're driving in and around the Mile High City, hope everyone is doing well, staying warm, staying safe out there. Anilo Piro and Jake Shapiro and Piro coming at you here on the Rundown today in for Richie Carney. If you're watching on YouTube, do us a favor, hit that like button, smash that subscribe button. Really helps us out here on the channel. And we love you wherever you're watching, whether it's on Twitter, Facebook, of course, YouTube. We appreciate all of you Denver sports fans out there. And we got a good show lined up for you today. A lot of Broncos talk as Vance Joseph and Davis Webb have themselves a pretty busy bye week, I guess you could say. Also some news in the world of the Colorado Avalanche for next season. And the Denver Nuggets, despite not having Nikola Jokic, get themselves a pretty impressive win yesterday. Shap, how we doing, brother?
I'm good. I am loving the fact that the Broncos coaches are getting these interviews out of the way now while they're off. Because one thing I remember from a couple of years ago, and our boy Dan, who's one of our producers, would probably tell us about this, is Jonathan Gannon, who is the Cardinals coach, was interviewing for the Cardinals job while the Eagles were preparing for the Super Bowl, and he was the DC. And what, they gave up like 40 points in that game or something like that. So get your interviews done, boys. Make sure it's all copacetic, and then get back to focusing on the task at hand, because the Broncos have to prepare for 4 teams this week, and then it narrows down over the week.
Yeah, I agree. This is the time for the Broncos assistant coaches, that being Vance Joseph and Davis Webb, to hopefully get those interviews out of the way. Before we kind of dive into that, let's hit our poll question here real quick. I want to get your opinion on this one, Jake. Which team would be the best matchup for the Denver Broncos in the divisional round? You mentioned the 4 teams: the Steelers, Texans, Bills, and Chargers. Make sure to cast your votes on X while it's still up there. I believe that poll closes tomorrow afternoon. So quickly, Jake, what are your thoughts on a potential matchup for the Broncos?
Give me old man Aaron striding into altitude with a questionable defense and a questionable amount of talent around him besides DK Metcalf. Yeah, man, the Pittsburgh Steelers are the obvious option here. I think the interesting conversation is, if you could, in a perfect world, pick the Pittsburgh Steelers to play at some point during your playoff run, would you actually hope it's in a conference championship game, because you're going to have 2 weeks to prepare for the harder opponent, so be it, or so to be said, this week, and then a shorter week for the Steelers, which again are the weakest team. So like, let's say it's the Chargers, then the Steelers, or the Bills, then the Steelers. Look, I don't think the Steelers are winning 2 playoff games, so it probably does not matter anyway. But I'm just saying, in a perfect world, it probably ends up with the Steelers for the conference championship rather than in the divisional round.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm pretty sure unanimously everyone in Broncos country is probably in agreement that if you had your choice, your pick of the litter, you'd like to face the Pittsburgh Steelers over some of these other teams. Although I will say I'm kind of thinking it could be Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. We'll see how that game shakes out against Jacksonville. I also think the Chargers are a live team to go into New England and upset the Patriots, but we shall see which team the Broncos draw.
Danilo, and I know this is the thing that's going to get clipped and it's going to come back in my face. Bills ain't winning that game. Bills are not winning that game.
What makes you say that?
The Jags are one of the hottest teams in the NFL. The Bills have a good run game. Like, that's the secret about the Bills. Everyone's like, oh, it's Josh Allen. No, it's actually their run game. James Cook has been fantastic this year.
You could say he's cooking.
He is cooking. The thing about the Bills, though, is they can't stop the run. And Jacksonville has one of the most creative and interesting running games, led by Travis Etienne, and then they've got Tootin back there as well. And LaQuint Allen's actually had some nice plays as well. So, like, I don't know, man. Like, their receivers are going left, right, all up down the middle. They're crazy. Like, if Parker Washington is in that game, that's part of this caveat. Parker Washington got hurt at the end of that last game. Parker Washington's playing in that game. I think the Jags are maybe going to blow them out. And it's something no one's talking about just because, oh, Josh Allen, he's experienced, it's his time, blah, blah, blah. You know what the thing is? It's Trevor Lawrence's time, too. And look, I'm a Josh Allen guy, but Trevor Lawrence has played in just as many, if not more, big games than Josh Allen, going back to early on in his college career when he won a national championship. This is not going to be a stage is too bright for the Jags situation because their, quarterback isn't experienced or something. Trevor Lawrence is going to come in there and be a rock star. And I think Trevor Lawrence, the last 6-7 weeks, has finally become the quarterback that we all thought he was going to be the entire time.
Yeah, that's going to be a fascinating matchup. I'm going to do the show again tomorrow here on the Rundown with our guy Cello Romano, and him and I are going to kind of go game by game and just break them all down. And it's an awesome weekend for football fans in general, but especially for Broncos country, because you get to kind of just kick back, relax, and watch all of these awesome games play out. Wild Card weekend is personally my favorite weekend of NFL playoff football.
Let me ask you a question, and we could put this on a poll or not, but if you had to pick one game during Wild Card weekend where your sister-in-law was watching the game with you and her boyfriend was over, what game would you pick for that one? Because I think it's a really tough conversation of like, which one do I kind of like want to halfway being paying attention to, like that's kind of because I have the pick of the litter right now, but I have to watch one game with my sister-in-law's boyfriend.
Yeah, it's probably Rams-Panthers just because it's a 10-point
spread.
That
was my pick. Let's go. I nailed it.
See, I would normally say if there was no interest for the Broncos, maybe Texans-Steelers. That's also on Monday night, so a little bit different, but obviously that has implications for the Broncos, so I think it's a little different for Broncos country. But, okay, getting back to the main topic at hand that involves the Denver Broncos, as you see here on the lower third, it has been a busy bye week for the Broncos coaches named Vance Joseph and Davis Webb. Vance, I believe, is interviewing for literally every single head coaching vacancy right now, except the Cleveland Browns. I'm not sure about the Miami Dolphins. I know that one just opened up today. Pour one out for Smokey Hill. Mike McDaniel, getting the axe there. That's a bit disappointing. But Davis Webb, also his name being thrown around in some head coaching searches, most notably the Las Vegas Raiders. So you talk about how it's a good thing for the Broncos coaches to get this out of the way now, but big picture, it's actually probably a good thing. It shines well on the Broncos in the sense that you have two of your guys being interviewed for head coaching vacancies.
Yeah, and the nice thing is here, because of both the coaching stealing rules and the Rooney rule and stuff like that, is if Vance Joseph gets a coaching job, you're going to get draft picks instead of Vance Joseph. And we've seen, particularly with Harbaugh, who just left the Ravens, I think over time, and this happened with the 49ers as well, you see a brain drain when you lose these coordinators. So I think long term, it's bad. Short term, it's a little rough because you're losing your coordinator. But in the midterm, you're hopefully able to replace that coordinator with someone who is also competent. And at the same time, you're getting more talent onto the roster. And it also reflects that you are doing well as an organization and people want to come work for you. So I think this is like mostly a good thing. But I do want to point that out. If the Broncos are to make this long run with Bo Nix, it eventually does come back to bite you. And it will make next year challenging if they are playing with a new DC. But as you mentioned, Mike McDaniel, and you've talked about Davis Webb there. If I'm the Denver Broncos, I am moving heaven and earth to get Mike McDaniel here as the offensive coordinator of the Denver Broncos. That offense, which becomes, constipated at times to be nice. I think Mike McDaniel would greatly benefit from learning under Sean Payton for a year or two. And I also think Mike McDaniel is one of the best young minds in the NFL. And I think that watching the Dolphins last year, who did not have that much talent, find a way to continue to be relevant down the stretch and actually be competitive speaks a lot to Mike McDaniel, the person, outside of his X's and O's. I think this is going to be a great head coach one day somewhere. And, obviously the hometown boy, we're a little biased here, but I don't really know what Lombardi does for the Broncos. And the fact that Davis Webb is getting all of these interviews says the NFL doesn't really know what Lombardi does. It's Davis Webb, the one cooking on that side of the staff.
Yeah, and Davis Webb, was given play calling duties in the preseason and impressed. I believe it was Jared Stidham that came out and had some high words of praise for Davis Webb and what he was able to do in that short time as a play caller. And let me say this, I was going to say this for a little bit later on, but let's just put the tinfoil hat on now. If you told me that one of these two, Vance or Davis Webb, was taking a job, right, just for the sake of conversation, if I'm the Broncos, I'd rather retain Davis Webb than that of Vance Joseph, because I think on defense, you have the pieces, right? You've got Nick Bonito, you've got Zach Allen, you've got Pat Surtain, Hufanga, Drake Greenlaw, and all those guys. I think Davis Webb is just more important to the overall progression of this Broncos team into the future. I feel confident about the Broncos' ability to go out there and replace Vance Joseph if he, of course, were to go out there and get a head coaching opportunity. The second point of that as well, this is now year 3, more so year 2, where we've seen this trend midway through the season under Vance Joseph defense, where the defense kind of starts to take a step back, starts to slide a little bit. I understand they cleaned some stuff up against the Los Angeles Chargers, albeit against Trey Lance and company. And I'm not saying another defensive coordinator wouldn't be dealt the same hand or a similar result, right? But I think there is potential room for improvement in the defensive coordinator position. But here's the real tinfoil hat take, number 3. I think a lot of people, at least I believe, is Sean Payton's number one goal right now is to become the first head coach to win a Super Bowl with 2 different franchises. Davis Webb is considered one of the young, up-and-coming, bright offensive minds in the NFL. Head coaching characteristics and qualities, I would say. He will probably be a head coach at some point in his career. Let's say the Broncos were to win the Super Bowl this year. Let's just say. And I'm not saying that Sean Payton is going to go out there and retire after this season if they do win the Super Bowl. But how much longer do we realistically think Sean Payton will continue to coach if he checks that major box off, which is winning a second championship and the first coach in NFL history to win a championship with 2 different franchises? I think Davis Webb, with the rapport that he's built with Bo Nix, the respect he has around the league, again, the head coaching qualities that he possesses himself, I think Davis Webb could be a head coaching and waiting for the Denver Broncos if they were able to go out there and get a championship this season, next season, or the year after. I think it might be wise to try to keep Davis Webb around for the long haul, because whenever Sean does decide to hang it up, he could be your heir apparent.
Well, and you see these teams make these reactionary decisions based off who they've left leave the building. I think a big reason why Harbaugh was fired was because of the fact of what's going on in Seattle right now, and they let that dude walk out the building, right? Like that matters. That has a some sort of bearing on it. And it's not like they were going to be able to fire Harbaugh to promote someone from the assistant side up, but it is like kind of like, oh no, we let that guy walk out of our building. I think that really does have an impact. And who would you say is the hottest head coaching candidate right now, Anilo?
I mean, probably Harbaugh, followed by Stefanski.
Harbaugh's 63. Sean is 62. I'm just pointing it out that I think that Sean has more time than maybe you're giving him. I think Sean's got at least 5 more years of this left. And the thing about Sean, too, is, yeah, obviously he's trying to become the first head coach to win Super Bowls for 2 franchises. But he also kind of got, I don't know, not screwed, but like, he didn't do as much as maybe he felt like he should have. Well, he did get screwed one time. He definitely did. But he should have probably won another Super Bowl in New Orleans. Those teams were consistently good for a long time. And I could see Sean wanting to build some sort of dynastical thing here where he does win 1 or 2. I think obviously the goal is to win 1 right now. But after he wins 1, I think he's going to go, well, I could have had this in New Orleans. Now I could do it here, Breeze, all same type. So it's I don't think Davis Webb is really the head coach in waiting. I think we're too, premature onto that conversation. I also think the head coach and waiting thing has like almost never worked. So That's something I would kind of avoid if I were the Walton Penners, but I do want to keep Davis Webb around because I think he's been integral to Bo Nix's development. I think he was really helpful for Daniel Jones as well. This is the guy. And you mentioned it with Vance Joseph. I don't think the Broncos defense is like all that incredible. Like it's good. Like it's a good defense, but we saw Vance Joseph as a head coach once. We saw him leading the Cardinals defense. We saw him here the last couple of years. Like, I think it's the talent. I don't really think it's him. So when you have Jim Leonard as one of your defensive coaching staff members, and he is a bright defensive mind, I don't think you're going to lose that much with Vance. You also are going to gain another draft pick if he walks out that door and becomes a head coach. So like, I'm kind of with Vance leaving. Like, that's fine with me. Like, he came back here. He returned. He took his lumps as the DC instead of the HC. Very, very rarely do you see that. And now he's going to leave and become a head coach again. Like, good for Vance, but I don't think it's that devastating of a loss for the Broncos. And remember, Vance wasn't even Sean's first pick for DC. It was Vic Fangio.
Yeah. Oof, that feels like a lifetime ago, those conversations that were going around. And again, the only thing I bring up with Sean and Davis Webb is like, if he wins that championship, and I agree with you, maybe there is this dynasty potential that he looks at and wants to keep coaching, but I just think Davis Webb at some point is going to be a head coach in his career, and he works really well with Bo Nix. He's got high praise in this organization. And again, less about the head coach heir apparent for the head coach is pure conspiracy outward thought. But I think more importantly, I think Davis Webb is just more important to this Broncos organization right now and the development of Bo Nix than that of Vance Joseph. I think you can replace Vance Joseph a lot easier than you could a guy named Davis Webb, who we know is a hot commodity across the league. Both of them are, for that matter, as well. So, yeah, it is what it is. Back to Vance real quick. Is there a team that jumps out to you that you think he might go to? I think the Arizona Cardinals just make a lot of sense just because of his connection there, having been a defensive coordinator. The tough spot with that is you have the Rams, Seahawks, and 49ers in that division. And it just seems like with all of the different head coaching opportunities, interview opportunities that he's being presented with, I'd be surprised if Vance is back. I've talked to some people that disagree with that, but he's obviously a very hot name in the market.
Yeah, the Cardinals are sneakily one of the worst organizations in football. And with Vance being one of the hot names in the market, I think he's going to be able to choose a little bit. I think it would really help him to go to the New York Giants. I think the New York Giants are a match made very well for Vance.
With Davis Webb, baby.
And the amount of edge rushers they have. Davis Webb could maybe lead Jackson Dart. Like, they've got some good weapons on offense with Neighbors and Scattaboo. So I think Vance to the Giants makes a lot of sense, but I do think the Giants, now that Harbaugh's on the table, have shifted their strategy to maybe going Harbaugh, Stefanski, then Joseph, whereas going into the offseason, I do think Vance was their top candidate. The fact that the Miami job opened, I think, is beneficial to Vance because Miami's owner is known to throw out a ludicrous amount of money for things like this. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him throw out a ludicrous amount of money for Harbaugh. He once tried to do it for Sean Payton. They lost a first-round pick because of it. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I think New York would be the best situation for him, but there aren't that many good jobs this offseason. They're pretty rough. Like, I mean, the Titans job is one of the better jobs, and man, I'm not very sold on Cam Ward personally.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Atlanta is also an intriguing destination just because of what that division is, right? Like, you can build something that hopefully is there to last in the NFC South. So we shall see. And we'll also keep an eye. Make sure to check out denversports.com if it is a potential package deal between Vance Joseph and Davis Webb as Vance head coach, and Davis follows him wherever he goes as offensive coordinator.
Well, and here's another name to watch out for with Vance, by the way. He was fired yesterday or 2 days ago. Lions OC and former Broncos staff member Johnny Morton. Like,
yeah.
Would that be a guy that either comes back here if Davis leaves, or is that a guy that maybe goes with Vance and becomes a quarterback coach or an OC? I don't know. It's kind of interesting to think about.
Yeah, a lot of moving parts. Again, we'll have you covered here on all of our programs, the radio station, and denversports.com. Also, make sure to check us out on social media. Okay, it is time to hit the turn, presented by our friends over at the Birdie Bar, guys. It's Louisville's premier indoor golf bar. Make sure to check them out online and on Instagram at thebirdie.bar. I'm actually up north right now, so maybe I'll pay a little visit over to the Birdie Bar with it snowing out right now. So make sure to check them out. On to the Avalanche, talking about the snow, talking about the ice. We know they're a wagon, right? You know, Gabe Landeskog, he's going to be out for a little while. Nothing new there necessarily, but a bit of a fun topic here. The Avalanche next season are going to travel to Utah to play in the Utah Utes Stadium to take on the Mammoth in the Winter Classic. Now, they've played in a handful of outdoor games, the Stadium Series. They played in that game a few years ago at Lake Tahoe, but I believe this is the first time the Avalanche will formally be a part of a Winter Classic. I had the opportunity to go to watch DU, I want to say against Colorado College a few years ago when they played at Coors Field leading up to the Avalanche game as a part of the Stadium Series. So I've been able to kind of take that in up close and personal myself. But Jake, I know you're a hockey guy. I love the hockey sport as well. That came out strange. I like hockey as well, is what I was trying to say. Talk to me about this Winter Classic in Utah.
Yeah, it's exciting, you know, and for me, as the Buffs perspective, as well as the rivalry that never took off between CU and in Utah, the Rumble and the Rockies that the Pac-12 tried to manufacture, that's now carried over to the Big 12. I do kind of hope for this rivalry to take place between Utah and Colorado in athletics, because it does feel like, at least from the Denver sporting perspective, we've not had a rival across sports, across, you know, genres, like that gets really bloody. And with Utah and Colorado in the same division here in the NHL, I know people want to call them conferences, the NHL, Gary Bettman, but they're divisions still. It looks like this could be a rivalry that takes off one day. And this premier event going to Utah before it comes to Colorado, I think is even kind of a slap in the face of the Colorado Avalanche supporters, which have been so great. Like, why has this not been at Folsom Field? Why have we not had a Winter Classic at Folsom Field and or in Power Field? Like, we have had stadium series both at Air Force, which feels like it was just kind of played out because of the military connections, which is fine. Like, that is fine, but that didn't really feel like a Denver event. It was literally in Colorado Springs. The one that felt like a Denver event was the one at Coors Field, which was beautiful against the Wings, and it was calling back to that great rivalry. I remember going to the alumni game before and seeing the guys fight, and I've heard stories that Jonathan Drouin was going to be traded to the Avs that day, but because Steve Yzerman got so ticked off at Patrick Waugh during that game, they literally nixed the trade.
Wow.
Like, I've heard stories like that. I mean, like, I'm not the best storyteller of that. Like, there's Avs people that could tell that story, but like, that's the type of rivalry I want, because the Avs-Wings rivalry, while great, it's in the past. They need a future rival, and I'm hopeful that Utah can become that across sports. I mean, Utah might get an MLB team here in a second, and then all of a sudden, half the Rockies market has been sliced by Utah. Like, they consider Utah and parts of New Mexico and Wyoming to be their territory. Well, if Utah gets a team, that's half their territory right there. So, yeah, I do think that between Utah and Las Vegas coming in the last 10 years, part of the Avs territory, so to speak, has been sliced. And having this game in Utah, I think, will spark a little bit more of that rivalry feel. Rice-Eccles is a decent stadium, a decent college stadium, once hosted the Olympics. I think it's going to host the Olympics again in some sort of way here when Utah hosts the Olympics, not Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City is not hosting the Olympics. It's Utah. They've made that very clear. So, yeah, just like they're the Utah Mammoth, not the Salt Lake City Mammoth.
Yeah, no, I love it. I mean, I agree with you. Like, why can't we get it like a formal winter classic here in the Mile High City? I mean, we have had the stadium series, right? We've seen it happen to a certain extent. And also, the Avalanche are one of the marquee products, the marquee product right now in the NHL. I understand they don't have the legacy of that of the Rangers or the Blackhawks or the Red Wings or anything like that, but they're the best team in the NHL and are loaded with star power, from Nathan McKinnon to Cale Makar, what they've been able to do with Marty Necas, Gabe Landeskog, of course, when he's back and ready to go healthy. But I still think it's cool, and hopefully this is something that bridges the gap between that Utah-Colorado rivalry that starts to hopefully sprout over the next handful of seasons. So keep an eye out denversports.com for all of that. And before we get out of here, a little preview of what's coming up with Mr. Shapiro and I here on the Mile High Hoops podcast. I was texting you last night, man. The Denver Nuggets. Oh my goodness. I mean, you're probably looking at the bottom of the screen. You're saying they finished the road trip with a 3-4 record. Like,
look at who's on the graphic.
Zeke Naji, who we thought was relegated to the shadow realm, and Peyton Watson, a guy that both you and I have been pretty high on for majority of this season, you more so over the course of his career. And they take down the Boston Celtics last night, of course, who are without Jason Tatum, but are 23-12 entering that matchup, 114-110. This team, man, 3-4 on the road trip. You probably think at a glance that's not a great record, but for a team that was without Nikola Jokic, without Aaron Gordon and Christian Brown for the start of it, and it's just kind of a hodgepodge of guys playing out there right now, no disrespect to these guys, what a win for them last night off the heels of their previous game.
The number one offense in NBA history right now is
Denver Nuggets.
The Denver Nuggets, led by Nikola Jokic. The number two offense in the history of basketball is...
Don't tell me it's this group. It can't be this group.
It's the Boston Celtics.
Yeah. Oh, okay. There you go.
Without Jason Tatum. It's been this team.
Jaylen Brown.
To look at this team, AP, and you see that the Denver Nuggets held them to 110 in their own barn. And that's with the foul game late taking like a minute and a half. Like, it was really, for 46 minutes, it was like 99. Like, they did an incredible job. Like, this is a Denver Nuggets team winning a game on the road because their defense stepped up against the number two offense in the history of basketball. Zeke Naji, in particular, was fantastic on defense. And I know the stats weren't as loud as they were the other night in Philadelphia, but Zeke was just all over the place. They couldn't get a rebound to save their lives. Kata had 20 rebounds last night. They got out rebounded by like 15. And they found a way because they forced 14 turnovers in the last three quarters. Bruce Brown gets a steal in the second quarter, and it just sets the Nuggets off, and they start swarming the Celtics. They forced Jaylen Brown to have 7 turnovers in the game. Jaylen Brown got benched for the end of this game. That's how good the Nuggets defense was on this guy who's getting literal MVP chance in his own building. So that was just awesome to see. Meanwhile, Jamal Murray, who on Sunday, the last time he played, set a career high with 16 assists, comes right back in his next game and beats it with 17 assists. He was the entire offensive engine for the Nuggets last night. And on the day where he says he wants to be an MVP in this league, he played like one.
Yeah, Jamal's been great. And if he's not an all-star after what we've seen without Nikola Jokic, like what are we doing here, man? Like what is going on? Like, look, the guy is incredible.
I hate, people that haven't been listening to Mile High Hoops and watch this show haven't heard this, but the All-Star game has changed a little bit in format and in voting selection. And because of that, it's actually going to be even harder for Jamal Murray to make the All-Star game. And last night, as I do, because that's my job here at Denver Sports, I watch a lot of basketball. Deni Avdija is going to be an All-Star. He scored 40 points last night for the Trailblazers against the Rockets. And that's an international player from the West. That is one more guy that's going to make it harder for Jamal to make the All-Star team. So you start doing the tabulations between Victor Wembanyama, Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Deni Avdija, who I just mentioned. And, you've got a couple more international players in the league that are obviously going to be all-stars. Giannis Antetokounmpo, Karl-Anthony Towns, and Paolo Banchero both technically are international guys, though they've played for Team USA. Same with Joel Embiid. It's getting real tight. It's getting real tight for Jamal Murray there. And I'm not disputing what you just said, Anilo, because he is literally 6th in the NBA in assists, and he is top 15 in scoring. And yet it's going to be hard for him to be an all-star. But I will say, above being an all-star, he deserves to be an all-NBA player. Right now, if the season ended, he would be my third-team all-NBA guard, which is just incredible to think about.
Yeah, 100%. And, they lose to the Brooklyn Nets and then figure out a way to beat the Sixers and the Celtics. That's so Nuggets, baby. That's so Nuggets. We'll have more Nuggets conversation coming up here in about 30 minutes on the Mile High Hoops podcast. So if you want some Nuggets exclusive conversation, make sure to check us out on that pod. Same YouTube channel, Twitter, all that good stuff as well. But he is Jake Shapiro. Make sure to follow him on social media at Shapalicious. I am at Media by AP. Make sure to follow us as well at Denver Sports 1043. And on your way out the door, do us a favor on YouTube. Hit that like button, smash that subscribe button. Really, really helps us out. All right, I'll be back in the saddle again for tomorrow's rundown with my guy, Chella Romano. We'll have some fun with the Wild Card Weekend games and keep you updated in the world of Denver Bronco football as it pertains to Vance Joseph and Davis Webb. But for Jake Shapiro, I'm Anilo Piro. Thank you guys for watching. Talk to you guys soon. I do what I love what I do. Second nature to put in the work.